Hi, Pathway to Liberty partners. This is Jamie, and I'm so excited to get with you all today and to begin sharing our series on the principles of liberty. We're going to start by talking about what is a principle. A principle is a foundational truth with widespread application. Principles are universal and timeless. From the time of the Garden of Eden up to the present, principles do not change. God has put laws in place to govern the universe, and He has put principles in place to govern human effectiveness. They are applied to every nation, every community, every family, and every individual. Stephen Covey explains, principles are self-evident and can be easily validated by any individuals. Principles are natural laws in human dimensions that are just as real, just as unchanging, and just as unarguably there as laws such as gravity are in the physical dimension. When my boys were young, we had a big tangerine tree in the front yard, and my second son, Luke, loved to go and climb in it and eat tangerines. And one day he went into the garage and came out with a large black hefty bag and began to shimmy up the tree. And I asked him, what are you doing with the hefty bag going up in the tree? And he said, I'm going to parachute out of the tree. Well, obviously, there is the law of gravity that we were going to be dealing with, and so I encouraged him to get on one of the lower branches because I didn't want him to hurt himself as he realized that there were certain laws in the physical dimension that were not necessarily going to work for him parachuting out of a tangerine tree. Well, these principles are the same thing as gravity. When we get in alignment with the principles and use them to govern our lives, we will see great momentum. Cecil B. DeMille says it is impossible for man to break the law. He can only break himself against the law. As we begin to talk and learn how to educate differently, it can be overwhelming. So at the beginning of each class, I would have a jar of water, and I would ask my students to leaven the water. The idea of leavening is a biblical term, whereas when you put a little yeast into the dough, that yeast grows and takes over the composition of the dough and continues to proliferate within the dough. And so the idea of leavening the jar is the jar and the water are symbolic of our lives, and then a drop of food coloring, I'd have them just select one drop, and the food coloring was symbolic of the principles. And the idea is one drop of food coloring into the water is like applying one principle at a time into our lives. Initially, it will begin to grow and take over and change the composition of our lives as we learn to think and live by principles. And then by the end of the class, the jar has completely changed in color, as do our lives completely change. So with principles, one of the things I found so inspiring was I understood our nation's founding and our founding fathers' intentions. It became crystallized in my understanding as I began to internalize the principles that our founding fathers fought for our nation to be founded upon. And so we're going to go over those principles over the next few weeks. We're going to talk about the principle of providence and individuality, self-government, property, power and form, character, seed, and union. And the idea is when our students are being educated over and over and we're bringing these principles into their lives on a daily basis, they begin to live by these principles on a daily basis, and it frames in their view of the world, and it frames in their conduct, their behavior, how they think, how they reason, how they govern themselves. And the idea is it lays a foundation of liberty in their souls that they can live by for the rest of their lives. Principles direct how we live, how we prioritize our time, our talents, our treasures. They have the power to impact how we relate to ourselves, to others, to our community, and to our nation. Also, while this is for Pathway to Liberty partners, if you know other like-minded individuals that would benefit or enjoy this, please share with them. Thanks so much, and we will see you soon. And remember, liberty is our heritage.